Welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Leavitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have any other comments during the show, go ahead and leave an open mic using the WDBO app. You can also check out their website at refreshcomputers.net or stop in at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you're listening to our show here on Saturday, it means you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. And now, the man himself, David Leavitt.
All right, Greg. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. We have a very informative show today. You know, I love doing these kinds of techie shows, and I certainly hope that you out there listening are going to learn something today and see what's going on with this memory chip stuff. There's a big issue right now. If you haven't heard, there's a memory chip shortage again that's coming. It's here, and it's causing memory chip prices to go up about 50% since May of this year.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's getting more and more expensive to buy a computer or a laptop, anything with memory in it. But it's not just the memory chips, it's the solid-state drive chips, because there's two different types of chips involved. I'm going to get a little geeky a little later in the show and explain the difference between those two types of chips. But why is there a memory chip shortage? So there's two main reasons.
I'm going to take a stab at one of them. I'm going to say that maybe it has to do with some of the tariff negotiations going on between our country and our administration and China. That's my first guess. What do you have to say on that?
Well, it's actually, yes, that has something to do with it, but basically in a reciprocal way.
Okay.
What China is doing to the world.
So not so much what we've put on, but what China's doing in retaliation.
Yes, I'm going to get into that a little later, and I'm also going to get into the other reason, which is AI, artificial intelligence, just buying up all these chips that are out there.
Seems to be the answer to so many of our questions recently.
Yeah, so anyway, the global memory chip shortage is affecting, I'm going to get a little geeky here, and I'm going to explain this too, it's affecting DRAM, DRAM, and also NAND, NAND. So what's the difference? Well, DRAM is your memory, your computer memory. DRAM stands for Dynamic Random Access Memory. In other words, it's very random, it's dynamic. It can turn off when the power is off. It doesn't retain any information when the chip is no longer powered. So when you turn off your computer, the memory that is in your computer is erased. It goes away because it needs the power in order to retain the memory that's in it. So those are the memory chips that require power, which is your standard memory chips in your computer or your laptop.
Which lets you access so many things so much quicker.
It
is
does.
The biggest responsibility it has, right?
And that's one of the main differences and why it doesn't, because it takes a little extra. I'm going to get into that with the NAND, N-A-N-D, flash chips, which is your solid-state drives, for example, and your USB flash drives. The difference between those two chips or the result of the difference is the speed, because the speed of the RAM, the DRAM, your regular memory chips is much quicker because it's not having to perform the retention capabilities that the NAND flash memory does, so the chips do. So anyway, so your solid state drives and your flash drives, like I just said, retains the data even when the power is removed. And so those are the two distinctly different types of chips, and both of these chips are affected by this shortage, and I'm going to tell you why. So there's primarily two factors. Greg, you hit one. It has to do something with the tariffs, but it's actually reciprocal action by China that they did just this October 9th. On October 9th, they announced this thing that's kind of surprised the world. And it is shaking the technology world to the core because on that day, they announced export controls. So not necessarily, higher tariffs, which are also in effect from China, but the control of exporting these chips because, these chips are mostly made in China, and they're made from, you've heard of the term rare earth materials, which is abundant in China, and they control that market today. And so until we can figure out how to undo that stronghold on rare earth materials that China has over the entire world, which I understand the Trump administration is actively working on. So stay tuned for that here coming up in the future, near future, I hope.
Well, so much of the jokes about taking over Greenland and making Greenland the 51st state, the main focus of those actions was to build a partnership to acquire more rare earth mineral,
which Greenland has an abundance of. So you're right. So the one factor is the fact that China is putting export controls. And I'm going to get into the export controls specifically a little later. What kind of controls are they doing and why it is affecting the prices and the shortage of these chips. So, and of course, the other one we touched on, the other reason that there is a chip shortage right now is because of the development of AI. And all of the AI companies are just sucking up all these chips. They're just like a dry sponge, and then there's the water, and the chips for the water, and it's just filling up the sponge, and they're not stopping. So,
it reminds me so much of a couple of years ago when there were the issues with the GPUs, when nobody could get a new GPU because all of the Bitcoin farmers were buying up all the GPUs and things like that. So kind of a similar situation, right?
That's right. So what kind of devices are affected by this? It's everything that takes a computer chip, really. It's your smartphone, it's your computer, your laptop, your tablet. It's the electronics in your car. It's all these things. The prices are going up and up and up because of the shortage of these chips. So I'm going to now start to take a little deep dive in the geopolitical aspects, right? So which is basically what China is doing, right, to help cause the price of chips to rise. They announced their export controls on these chips, or actually it's whatever material that is used in these chips. So export controls on the rare earth materials used in chips and other things. So they announced this on October 9th of this year, so a little over a month ago. And so we're seeing the effects of that already. So it has severely disrupted the supply chain because that helped, and that's helping to increase the price of everyday memory on your computer. So also on the solid state drives. So what they did was, it was a response to Western tech restrictions on China because, we had our restrictions on China also and our tariffs on China. So they came back and said, okay, so, any company, any entity that wants a material, something made from these rare earth materials like computer chips for memory and computer chips for solid state drives, memory manufacturers and solid state drive manufacturers such as Samsung and SK Hynix now have to go through an approval process with China.
So specifically, like every time they go to make a purchase, they have to go through a full approval process with China.
They do. They have to first report on an expanded export license application. So for all these, anything that requires these chips that they need in order to make their memory sticks and their solid state drives. So this is critical. And again, this has just been since October 9th, and it's causing a huge delay for these companies to obtain the materials that they need, on top of the fact that it is causing the shortage, is contributing to the shortage of these chips. It's not that they don't have enough rare earth materials to make the chips. That's still there, but just not as many of them is being exported out of the country as normal.
Or readily available, like you mentioned. If this was a brand new, unexpected announcement coming from China, that really kind of puts a crunch on your production supply there.
So you look at that in combination with, the fact that AI is buying up all this memory, all these chips, as much as they can get their hands on, basically. So that's leaving, places like retailers, for example, shorthanded. It's because, these companies, they have the the money and the power to obtain all these chips, and they do, and they're soaking them up, as many as they can get their hands on, given the fact that there's a limited supply coming out of China now because of the new regulations that China imposed on October 9th.
And I feel like it's been a reoccurring topic here on the show, just the further and further innovative that AI has become, the more hungry it's going to be for that kind of RAM and storage availability.
And on top of that, the new Chinese regulations also control the export of technologies related to rare earth mining. So, mining, smelting, magnet manufacturing, and this prevents Chinese companies from sharing crucial manufacturing know-how and forces foreign companies, like the ones I just mentioned, Samsung and SK Hynix, to obtain the licenses for any use of Chinese technology in their production. So they really put a wrench in the chain there.
Right in the middle of it, too. I mean, that's more than just the basic rare earth minerals that you kind of think of. It goes from being the rock to what they can actually use. They're talking about everything in between.
That's right. So, so this has already prompted, President Trump to take action here in the U.S., and he's trying to get companies to, step up the game, trying to see what we can do to get our own rare earth capabilities here in the U.S. and beyond. There's some places where we, it would be easier for us to obtain those materials. So it's just, so again, computer memory and computer solid state drive prices are skyrocketing, and there's no end to that in sight in the very near future at all. And it's due to two main factors. One is the very strict restrictions that China put on the export of the materials needed to make those devices. That they put that on October 9th. And the combination of that with AI absorbing all the chips that they can get their hands on, all these manufacturers of AI technology trying to get their hands on all this memory, they can't get enough. And that's leaving the everyday user of computers and laptops and smartphones and tablets, anything that takes memory and solid state drives, it's leaving all of us, out, in the dust, and it's causing prices to go up. And again, it's just going to keep going up higher and higher. So if you are looking to upgrade your memory in your computer or your laptop, now's a good time. Now's as good a month or so ago was a better time.
Probably the better time.
But I'm telling you, if you're paying, $50 for a stick of RAM today, that stick of RAM probably in about 2 or 3 more weeks or a month from now will probably be around $100.
And
if you can get it.
Right, exactly. Like you mentioned, it's already affecting retailers where you're having difficulty getting some of these items in stock in the first place. And now we've got this new set of restrictions placed on those as well.
Yeah, and so and again, Beijing, they have total control over this. They do, and what they are doing is crippling the entire market out there. So, in essence, the new export controls add risk by directly threatening the supply and affordability of the essential materials and equipment needed for memory production. That's pretty much what it is. It's also increasing the operational complexity and exposing companies to broader geopolitical tensions, meaning that these companies have to go through all these ropes now that I was just talking about. And if you missed any of this, and we got more to talk about too, we got some stuff, some exciting news about Google and their new super chip called Willow. It's really cool. But if you missed any of this and you want to recap, go to refreshcomputers.net. Click on the podcast link right up there at the top of the page, and you can listen to this show in its entirety. It's about 40 minutes or so, and it's also on all the popular podcast mediums. It's on Apple. It's on all the podcast mediums out there, Spotify. You can find us by just looking up Refresh Computers Podcast, and you should be able to find us on your favorite podcast medium.
And you've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Leavitt, president and founder of the Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. And you can also check out their website over at refreshcomputers.net. And now, back to David.
All right, thanks, Greg, and thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. You know, we had been talking about the worldwide shortage of the chips that are required to make memory sticks for your computer, solid-state drives for your computer, your laptop, for your smartphones. And if you miss any of that, you can go to refreshcomputers.net. Click on that podcast link at the top of the page and hear the show in its entirety. And just a recap of what we were talking about is that there's a worldwide shortage primarily for two reasons. One is export restrictions that China announced on October 9th of this year. That has severely affected the amount of memory that manufacturers can get today. That manufacturers like Samsung, SK Hynix, for example. So those new restrictions from China we talked about in detail in the past hour. So again, you can go to the podcast at refreshcomputers.net if you want to read or hear all about that. And the other thing affecting the chip shortage is, of course, the AI technology. So that you may hear about in the news. And I'm surprised, Greg, that there's not a lot more news going on about this chip shortage that I'm hearing right now.
Yeah. No, honestly, this is kind of the first time that I'm even hearing about this, really. And I think that's definitely one of those things that's going to continue to affect, like you mentioned, the global supply chain. But it's also going to continue to affect the ongoing negotiations between the U.S. and China as they try and figure out this tariff situation that's gone on since the beginning of the Trump administration here.
You hit the nail right on the head because, if something's not done in the short term, these prices are not going to be going down. They're going to go up, up, up. And, they've already gone up 50% since May. The price of anything that makes a computer memory stick, anything that makes a solid-state drive for your computer, for your storage, those prices have gone up 50%.
Now, you mentioned 50% for those. Have you seen an increase in any other products that are kind of also associated with those rare earth metals?
Not so much right now because I think the factories are absorbing or they're using, some smart companies have ordered a lot of memory in advance, right? I can tell you that we saw this coming in very early stages, probably a month or two ago, and we ordered as much RAM as we can get our hands on and solid-state drives. We put brand new solid-state drives in all of our refurbished computers and laptops. And so, we want to, of course, keep the price down on those. So seeing this coming, I ordered thousands of drives, literally thousands of solid-state drives, and kind of bit the bullet early in order to avert, price increases that we're going to have to pass on to our customers eventually, which we haven't yet. But eventually it's going to affect the prices even at places like Refresh Computers because, once we run out of that supply that we bought, to try to get ahead of the shortage here, we're hoping that, we can get these in the near future at any price, to tell you the truth. And it's just because the shortage is real. And it's just getting worse and worse because, again, it's just a combination of AI technology. All these companies manufacturing these AI capable machines are sucking up all the chips that's used to make these, the same chips that are used to make computer memory and computer solid-state drives. And so it's that, and the Chinese restrictions are really tough. It's causing these companies, these manufacturers that are not located in China, to go through all these hoops. And I'm not sure what that's going to do to companies like SK Hynix. And you may or may not have heard of that company, but they're huge in the memory manufacturing world.
So not only are the AI data farms increasing your power bills, but now they're also going to increase your computer repair costs as well. So we'll continue monitoring that situation here for you on Tech Talk. You, of course, have been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Leavitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have any other comments during the show, go ahead and leave an open mic inside the WDBO app. You can also check out their website over at refreshcomputers.net or stop in at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you're listening to the show here on Saturday, it means you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. And now, back to David.
All right, Greg, thank you folks for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. As Greg said, I'm David Leavitt. I am the owner and founder of Refresh Computers. So happy to be able to bring you some technology news, some technology updates, what's going on around in the world technology-wise right here on Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. If you missed the first couple of segments, we were talking about the shortage of the chips that are needed to manufacture computer RAM, computer memory, solid-state drives in your computer. So there's a real shortage going on right now. And the two main reasons are the fact that China has imposed new restrictions on manufacturers that started back on October 9th of this year. And the other reason would be that because of AI technology, all these companies doing the AI stuff is out there just sucking up all these chips that they can get their hands on. And that's drying up the supply that we need as regular computer users to operate our computers. If we want to upgrade our memory and stuff like that, it's costing more already, and it's going to continue to cost more in the very near and foreseeable future. So again, go to the podcast, refreshcomputers.net, at the top of the page there, and you can listen to the show in its entirety, and you can hear all about that. So it was a pretty in-depth discussion on those two topics, and definitely worth a listen to if you are technology-minded at all.
And even not just technology-minded, but so much of the geopolitical climate has been built around these rare earth elements that we've been talking about now for months and months, it seems. And a lot of the actions moving forward are going to be focused around these. So definitely good to know a little bit of the background on why they're so important to us.
That's right. And I try to do the best job I could do to explain that in as simple terms as possible so it's understandable. So I hope you take a listen to that segment of the show. And now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about what Google has done of all companies. I guess why not? They make Android devices, right?
Right.
So why not develop your own quantum computing chip?
Yeah. When I read this as one of our topics, I was really surprised at hearing that Google's taken that step, because for the longest time, they've always just kind of like to partner with people on these kinds of things, or they just buy you, one of the two. But to actually kind of develop this themselves, very interesting.
Kind of went the route of Apple, because Apple doesn't make quantum computing chips at all. They make an awesome computer CPU processor, which is different than a quantum computer chip. And I'm going to get into that difference here right now. So, and what this Willow chip is. So a quantum computing chip, okay, so it's not a chip, it's not a CPU you can put into your desktop, for example, okay? It is, because it operates on a completely different technology using what's called qubits. And I'm going to get into what a qubit is here in just a minute. We did a whole show on this one time. And compare it to what a regular CPU uses, which are bits of information, right? So as I stumble here, the Willow chip made by Google, it's 13,000 times faster than the most powerful classic supercomputers.
So when we talk about that, we're talking like you hear a lot about like IBM Watson or things like that.
Faster than that. 13,000 times faster.
Wow.
So, and well, not only is it faster, there's also when computers are computing and it's all this data is flashing across, all these electrons going across, there's always these little errors that pop up, and so there's a thing called error correction and how fast the CPU can do that in order to not slow it down, because every time the chip has to do an error correction, which this happens on your regular everyday computer, by the way, too. It can slow it down. And so one of the key elements of the Willow chip by Google is it also showed a marked decrease in the number of error corrections that it has to do.
So it's not only solving them faster, but it's also decreasing the number of errors in general.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it's just a major step forward towards building, a large-scale quantum computer that can solve real-world problems. And we talked about this in other shows, the kinds of problems that it can solve is mostly in medicine, for example. So, this is the computer technology that's going to be able to take your DNA and give an outline of any kind of care or needs that you have health-wise for the rest of your life.
Oh, okay. So I see. So instead of just kind of going to the doctor and then getting post-care, this can actually kind of give you really that preventative care for things that could affect you down the road.
That's right. And talk about technology that eliminates jobs. In the world of medicine, I'm talking like doctors, your everyday general physician, right? Their jobs will probably be fewer of them. I think today we probably have a doctor shortage, right? And always seem to be in that situation. But with the advent of quantum computing, being able to do all the work for the doctor, it takes all the knowledge that the doctors, will take 8 years of college
and hope to be able to retain throughout their entire career, right?
Exactly. And takes all that in microseconds and gives you, a diagnosis, let you know what kind of medicines that you're going to need in the future. It'll be preventative medicine as well. So this is right around the corner. I mean, it's almost here. And in our lifetime, this is going to happen, Greg. And it's so exciting, with the advent of these computer chips. So the difference between so a quantum computer uses what I said called qubits, Q-U-B-I-T-S, as opposed to a regular CPU that we're used to, like in our desktop, using bits, B-I-T-S, of information. So the difference is look at your regular computer using bits, and this is explaining why the quantum computer chips are so much faster and using the qubits, because a bit, which is in your regular computer, uses, of course, zeros and ones, and basically on and off. It's so basic. I wish I could paint the picture because all the data in your computer that goes through is only relying on those two things.
Light switch on, light switch off.
That's right.
Right.
And what sequence that it's happening, and this produces or passes through the data that your computer is using. And so, and it's just basically, let's just say it's just the data flows one way at a time. So it can flow up, forward, flow back, off and on. So, but with a qubit, what a qubit can do as opposed to a bit is, I want you to think of the way I can picture this is a sphere, right? And look at the sphere's surface. Not just the sphere's surface, but the core of the sphere as well. So a qubit can pass data all around the points simultaneously, the equator, the diagonals, the core, and points in between. And a qubit sorts data this way. It's still, guess what, zeros and ones, but it's going in all these different directions, where a regular bit is more just vertical. Right?
Gotcha.
Just one way in, one way out. Boom, 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 boom. Where a qubit has multiple ways in and out.
The multiple axes of trying to solve that interesting puzzle that it can.
And it's multiple axes where it is passing data. And it's because just that fact alone makes it extremely fast.
In just one transfer. As opposed to, like we're saying with the regular CPU, it's multiple transfers to get that same information, now 13,000 times faster than even some of the other supercomputers now at this point.
And then, and so why can't you put one of these CPUs in a regular computer? Might be a question people would be asking. Hey, well, we'll just put one in. Well, because then with speed comes heat. that they're super hot. Yeah, you need a super cooler.
Not a regular water cooler that you have in your gaming PC right now?
No, I'm talking about like negative 20 degrees Celsius cold.
So nitrogen levels. Okay.
Yes. To keep these chips cool enough to keep operating, because electrons move. One of the things, and as electrons move, believe it or not, it causes friction. It's like microscopic friction, but and that friction is what produces the heat. And so that's why you need these super coolers in there. And it's also a reason why over time, even a regular CPU could wear out, because it gets passes so much data. And, and so these super computers that use the qubit type of CPUs like Willow from Google that they just announced, they get overheated so fast that you need that sub-freezing cooler in a clean room environment in order to have this thing operate. Okay, so we haven't had a chance, Greg, to talk about any of the deals going on at Refresh Computers, and so maybe now would be a good time to do that. We were just talking about qubits and bits and Google's new Willow chip, which is a breakthrough in technology. While you're not going to be able to get a computer with a Willow chip in it.
I was hoping you'd have a deal on one.
At Refresh Computers, or any other place for that matter. We do have some really good deals going on at Refresh Computers. Windows 10 has expired. We've been talking about that for weeks now. And if you have not upgraded your computer to a Windows 11 computer, and you are still accessing the internet, well, you are at risk. You are at severe risk, because today, your computer is most likely targeted by people that have already. They had this stuff ready to go, folks. When they knew when Windows 11 is expiring, and they know all these Windows 10 machines are out there still. Some 300 million plus are still out there. And so they're ready to attack your computer. And it's so fast that you might think, well, they're not going to get my computer. Well, guess what? If your computer is connected to the internet, they'll get it. They're
already
right
trying
to it, because it's lightning fast for them to be able to access these computers. And they'll get stuff like your photos, your videos, your bank accounts, your passwords, and stuff like that. So upgrade to a decent Windows. We have so many Windows 11 computers and laptops. We anticipated needing them. And another thing, and we've been selling a lot of them, we still have plenty in stock, hundreds and hundreds of computers and laptops. If you go to refreshcomputers.net, you can see all of the computers and laptops that we sell that are Windows 11 that are right there on the homepage. You can search for, by desktop, by laptop. You can also get accessories there at refreshcomputers.net. We have laptop computers starting at around $200 with Windows 11 on them already. Don't forget brand new solid-state drives in all of our computers and laptops, almost all of them, not every single one, but I would say 99% of them have brand new solid-state drives in them. And you will also get a quality desktop starting at around $250. We have some nice Dell Optiplexes still that are running Windows 11, Greg, and these are just super, super business class desktops. And we've had businesses buying up dozens at a time. Just had a company last week purchase 27 of these computers, and they know, because we are the place in Central Florida that has that many in stock. You need them today, tomorrow, next week. We have them in stock, and it's something that you're not going to have to worry about.
Especially as a business owner, it can be difficult to acquire that many PCs at the same time when you need to do a major upgrade, like what you have to do going from Windows 10 to 11 in an office space. That's
right. And don't forget that these all come with 90-day warranties. They are quality refurbished. I mean, you have to understand, we've had whole shows on the refurbishing process at Refresh Computers, and these are really refurbished. These will last you just as long as the new one, if not longer than the new one, with all the quality components and all the checks that are done in each computer and laptop that we sell there at Refresh Computers.
During the break, I'll try and get Dave to add a filter for that Willow chip inside the Refresh Computers website as well. So you've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Leavitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. And you can also check out some of those deals we talked about on their website over at refreshcomputers.net. And now, back to David with another one of those deals that we didn't get to, but kind of piqued my interest when we started talking about it off the air.
That's right, Greg. And so, we haven't talked a lot about some of the deals that we have at Refresh Computers. We dedicated most of the show today to a couple of really important topics. One of them is the worldwide chip shortage that's used to make memory and also solid-state drives, and the reasons why there's a chip shortage. And also the new Willow chip developed by Google. We gave some time to that, and it's just an awesome quantum computing chip. If you missed any of that, you can listen to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers in podcast version by going to the website at refreshcomputers.net. Click on that podcast link and listen to the show in its entirety. And, we have tons of Windows 11 computers and laptops in stock. We always talk about all the great deals that we have. And I'm going to talk about one that's a super, super deal here, but it's only for a select few people, I would imagine. It's not because I always talk about the laptops and computers that usually only talk about the ones that are on the lower end of the price spectrum.
The
right?
ones for everybody. The ones that kind of 90% of the people, maybe even 95% of the people that come into your store are just looking for that kind of a deal. But there is that 5%. This is kind of why it's piquing my interest.
That's true. And what a lot of people don't realize, because we always focus on the 95% of computer users and what they typically need, which are typically going to be the $200 or $300 computer or laptop, period. But what a lot of people don't understand or realize probably is the fact that we also sell a lot of high-end computers and laptops as well. And so I'm going to talk about one specifically because never quite had one like this one, Greg. This is
even new for you. I like that.
That's right. This is a great addition to the store. These just came in not too long ago. We only got 5 of them in stock. All right, sold 3 already.
Oh, a hot commodity as well.
So there's only 2 left, but I want to talk about it because it's just it's an i9 processor, 13th generation, so it's, fairly new. It's not that old at all, but it has 128 gig of memory. 128 gig of memory. That's a lot. The typical computer that's sold today has 8 or 16 gig of memory. That's it. This laptop, it's a laptop. It's a 17-inch laptop. It's a Dell.
And it's a laptop.
It's a laptop. Dell Precision laptop, 17-inch, 128 gig of memory. i9 processor, which is at the top of the tier processors from Intel. You have your i3, i5, i7, and i9. You hardly ever see i9s out there.
I was going to say, I bet there's a lot of people listening right now that didn't realize there was an i9.
Yes. So this is a high end. You can go out and you can actually price this laptop on the Dell website today with the features, with the components that ours has in it. So it has a 1 terabyte solid state drive, 128 gigabytes of memory, which is insane, especially for a laptop. This price is out on the Dell website at around $4,600 to $4,800.
Oh my goodness! I've got to know, what do you guys have this laptop priced at right now?
We have it for $29.99.
What a deal!
So that is a deal. I mean, just the memory alone, the 128 gig of memory, is about $1,000. It's crazy. It's especially at today's.
And you talk about the i9 processor too. The i9 processor is a very expensive processor.
It's nuts. So, if you want the best that there is and you need a nice, large 17-inch Dell Precision, which is Dell's premier business class laptop, and you want to be able to do a whole bunch of stuff with a laptop, this is the laptop for you. So you can look it up at refreshcomputers.net. If you just search laptops and you can sort by highest price, for example, because this is the most expensive laptop we have. You'll see that one. The model number escapes me right now, but it is a Dell Precision, so you can check that out. And so I think that's about all we have time for, Greg. Don't forget the free tech support hotline, which is 407-478-8200. This is David Leavitt with Refresh Computers. We're signing off for this week, and we'll be talking to you again next week.